Every moment of our lives is shaped by one silent force, decision. It is not the circumstances that define who we become, but rather the choices we make in response to them. The book Decision dives into this profound truth with spiritual clarity and motivational power, unraveling the layers of fear, doubt, and hesitation that often cloud our ability to choose boldly and live with conviction. It challenges the reader not merely to understand the importance of decisions, but to embrace decision-making as a sacred act, one that bridges who we are today and who we can become tomorrow. From the very beginning, the book reminds us that indecision is itself a decision, one that leads to stagnation, regret, and unrealized potential. In life, no path remains untouched forever. Time moves forward with or without our consent. Through heartfelt stories and real-world reflections, the author urges us to stop waiting for perfect conditions, perfect timing, or perfect confidence. Those things rarely come all at once. What we do have is now, and the power to choose with faith. A young woman in the book, for example, waits years to start her own business. She tells herself she needs more money, more experience, more support. But underneath all her rationalizations lies one unspoken truth: she is afraid to decide. Her journey becomes a mirror for our own hesitations, and a reminder that progress is only born when we act in spite of fear, not in the absence of it. The book carefully peels back the emotional and psychological reasons why we avoid decisions: fear of failure, fear of judgment, the burden of responsibility, or the temptation of comfort. But comfort, as the author points out, is a slow poison. What feels safe today may quietly rob us of joy tomorrow. A powerful lesson shared through the story of a middle-aged man trapped in a lifeless job, not because he lacks talent, but because he chose comfort over calling. The moment he finally chooses to walk away, to chase the career he once abandoned in his youth, is painted not as a heroic act, but a human one. He trembles, he doubts, he feels foolish, but in that trembling, he finds freedom. One of the book's most profound insights is the concept of identity-driven decision-making. Too often, we make choices based on current circumstances, instead of who we want to become. This disconnect traps us in cycles that reflect our past rather than our potential. But what if, the book asks, we decided from the future? What if we imagined the person we wish to be 5 years from now, confident, fulfilled, at peace, and asked ourselves, what would that version of me choose today? Suddenly, the fog of doubt clears. Decisions become spiritual steps toward alignment with our highest self. A single mother in the book, struggling to raise 2 kids after a divorce, begins making decisions not from a place of fear or scarcity, but from the identity of a strong, self-reliant woman who wants to model courage for her children. The moment she starts thinking this way, she starts living this way. Another central theme in Decision is responsibility, not in the burdensome, heavy sense, but as a liberating truth. When we take full ownership of our choices, we reclaim our power. Blame may offer momentary comfort, but it delays growth. A powerful example is given through the story of a young man who lost his scholarship due to a failed exam. For weeks, he blamed his professors, his upbringing, his distractions. But when he finally stopped pointing outward and asked himself, what could I have done differently? He discovered a hidden reservoir of inner strength. That was the moment he began to rise, not because his situation changed, but because he did. The book reminds us again and again, we may not control everything that happens to us, but we always control how we respond. The writing flows with both warmth and weight, never shaming the reader for past hesitations but gently guiding them toward courage. There's a deep compassion woven into the message, a recognition that decisions are hard because they cost us something. Sometimes, choosing one path means letting go of another. Sometimes, it means disappointing others. Sometimes, it means venturing into the unknown with nothing but faith. But the book also shows, again and again, that the cost of indecision is often higher. Missed opportunities, unspoken dreams, relationships that drift into silence, lives that quietly fade without ever being truly lived. In one especially moving section, the author shares the story of an elderly woman who, on her deathbed, reflects not on the things she did, but on the things she didn't do. The words she never said, the letters she never sent, the forgiveness she withheld, the dream of writing a novel that she kept tucked in a drawer for decades. She says, with tears in her eyes, I was waiting for the right time. I never realized that time doesn't wait for us. This moment encapsulates the soul of the book, that life rewards those who dare to decide, not those who wait for permission. But the book does more than reflect. It empowers. It offers tools and frameworks that are deeply practical. It encourages the reader to get quiet, to listen not to the noise of others' opinions, but to the still, small voice within, the voice of wisdom, intuition, and higher knowing. It guides us to ask powerful questions before each decision. Does this choice align with my values? Will this bring me closer to who I wish to become? Am I choosing out of fear or out of faith? When we ask these questions honestly, we begin to make decisions that lead not only to success but to inner peace. The idea of decision as a form of spiritual growth is another subtle but powerful thread in the book. Every courageous choice expands us. Every act of clarity builds character. Even when decisions lead to mistakes, they are not failures, they are teachers. The author reminds us that pain itself is not the enemy, unexamined pain is. When we choose, fail, and reflect, we grow wiser. We become more resilient, more aware, more alive. The book redefines failure not as falling short, but as falling forward. There is also a deep emotional intelligence in how decision addresses relationships. Decisions about who we love, who we forgive, and who we choose to let go are some of the hardest we'll ever make. But the book teaches that clarity in relationships often begins with clarity in self. We can't choose healthy love if we don't first choose self-worth. We can't make space for new growth while clinging to what is no longer meant for us. One character in the book, a woman torn between staying in a long-term but loveless marriage and starting over, embodies this struggle. Her ultimate decision is less about her husband and more about reclaiming her voice, her light, her right to choose joy again. At its core, Decision is not just a book about making choices, it's about reclaiming the authorship of your own story. It's about standing at the crossroads of life and realizing that even when you feel powerless, you still hold the pen. The final message is simple but transformative: your next decision can change everything. Not because it guarantees an outcome, but because it declares your intention to live consciously, courageously, and aligned with purpose. As the last pages unfold, the reader is left with a quiet fire in the soul, a sense that maybe, just maybe, the life they've been waiting for is one bold decision away. Whether it's a leap toward a new career, a vow to heal an old wound, or simply the decision to begin again, Decision invites us all to choose, and in choosing, to become more fully ourselves. Let this not just be a summary, but a call. A call to stop waiting. A call to trust that within you is the wisdom to decide, the strength to follow through, and the grace to grow. No more drifting. No more postponing your power. It's time. Decide. And let your next choice be the one that changes everything.